Hi everyone, Shannon with Apogee the Moon, bringing you a weekly forecast for January 25th through January 31st. So this week in the astrology, we have some pretty intense things going on. Then I will share my screen. So on Tuesday, January 26th, we have the Sun squaring Uranus, the north node, the north and south node actually, coming into a square with Neptune. On Thursday, we do have the Venus conjunct Pluto, the full moon in Leo, and the Sun conjunct Jupiter. On Saturday, we have Mercury stationing to go retrograde. So what all of this means is that it's going to be an intense week. It's going to be a week of culmination and completion, reevaluation, and possibly endings. So let's dive in. On Tuesday, the Sun in detriment is squaring Uranus in its fall position. So when a planet is in detriment or fall, it doesn't function at its best. Generally speaking, unless a person is apt to look in the mirror at their own idiosyncrasies and shadow perspectives, shadow selves, or whatever the buzzword is right now, that people just dealing with your stuff and bringing the unconscious to the conscious. Neither the Sun nor Uranus are really functioning at their best doing this. So this is definitely a lot of shadow energy. Being contrary, just for the sake of contrary, is something that you can see with this aspect when they're in their fall and detriment. Being righteous, being dogmatically self-righteous. You can see a lot of that starting to pop up. The square point is a tension point. So what it is it's showing you where things need to change, or where things need to, be let go of, reevaluated, or looked at, right? Because a square is that tension point, it is that friction, and it causes heat and whatnot. So just be aware that the square point, especially between the Sun and Uranus, any knee-jerk reactions that you do may not be what you were looking for. And because of where Saturn is and the squares that are going to be happening after this with Uranus and Saturn throughout the year, it's going to take about that long to kind of clear it up, whatever it is. So look for shadow integration, self-evaluation, introspection. And if someone's coming at you, look within yourself before you respond to that person. And I would say concentrate on responding rather than reacting, because it could be a reaction that has very dramatic and detrimental effects for you for the rest of the year, wherever this is going to show up for you in your chart. Also on this day at the same time, it's the same day, so I say it's at the same time. Cosmically speaking, it's one day, it's happening at the same time. The nodes will be squaring Neptune. So this can show us where we have been out of our integrity, where we have been out of our spiritual integrity, either where we've been spiritually bypassing, where we have been deceitful of ourselves or of others, where maybe we have told white lies or lied in general. This can show us where it is that we have tried to bypass our true spiritual nature. And, it could also cause us to be this way on this day. Because, sometimes it's hard to look in a mirror, right? The choice is ours with the North Node and Gemini, obviously, because Gemini obviously is that more duplicitous nature sign. This can cause an even bigger split with reality because it is Neptune and it is the nodes, or a seemingly bigger split. This would be more about disillusionment and cognitive dissonance than, anything else really. Now the big event of the week, well, the big day, I should say. There's several big things happening on Thursday, the 28th. Venus will be coming into an exact conjunction with Pluto. And this is the same day that the full moon in Leo happens. Venus and Pluto are activating the new moon that we just had in Capricorn a couple weeks ago. And Venus conjunct Pluto is a very prickly aspect. It's like having Venus in Scorpio. Venus being a personal planet and Pluto being a transpersonal planet. This conjunction will have both a physical and a psychological impact because Venus is a physical, tangible planet that we can see in the sky. It has a physical, tangible impact on us here on Earth. Pluto is being, way out in the cosmos, millions of miles away. We're not able to see it with the naked eye. So what this is this is more of that deep, unconscious, psychological kind of planet, really. And Pluto does have that with the unconscious. So this will dial up intensity, and wherever this is happening in your chart, and it's pretty much, don't be afraid to show up for yourself with hard boundaries. So even while I'm filming this, Venus is coming close to that conjunction. Today is Friday the 22nd, so it's Venus is only a few degrees away from Pluto, so it's starting to dial up, it's starting to dial in, and it won't be until the exact aspect and the subsequent separating aspect of the planet before it really manifests and does its thing. But it's getting there. Like there's definitely notes of triggers and personal disputes and relationships with other people, and either you're going to respond in integrity or you're not. So Pluto is very black and white like that. Either you're going to act in integrity or you're not. If you are seeking a love affair this week, just be aware that it could have long-term ramifications, especially very deep, intense psychological ramifications. Watch out for self-sabotage with this, because if you're with Pluto, if you are, not conscious of hurts, traumas, wounds, things like that, they run your life at a conscious level. If you're conscious of them and you purposefully put yourself in a situation, that's a different story. If you're unconscious, it can have detrimental ramifications for your psychology. It's just going to leave it at that. So the full moon in Leo, though, I mean, it's no less intense. The sun and moon are forming a very intense T-square with Mars and Uranus. So the closer aspect would be to Mars, but Uranus is also only 4 degrees away, which is literally nothing. So it is considered conjunct to this full moon as well. I mean, a full moon in Leo on its own is very heightened on the emotional sphere, because Leo is a very heartfelt sign. And the shadow Leo can be very self-focused, very, what people would say self-centered, very egotistical, arrogant, all the words that make somebody very, I don't want to say unlovable, but I guess I'll just run with that. Unlovable, right? Like you just look at them and you're like, who do you think you are, kind of thing, which I hate saying that because, everybody's told that as a child. So with the square to Mars and Uranus, it's as though we're fired up about the changes that we are making in our lives, and we're very passionate about it. Full moons are emotionally intense anyway. And so the square to Mars and Uranus can speak to very radical completions, very abrupt endings, very pressurized decision making, I would say. Since Mars is the focal point of the T-square from the sun and the moon, action would be a word that we would use here, that you would be taking action for something, to do something, to end something, to cut something out of your life, because Mars does have that association as well. So it may not be what you want, but it may be what you need, especially with Uranus there. And it may be very abrupt and very shocking when it happens. be aware that energetically so far this year, since this is, you know, this is what, the second full moon of the year, we're having the full moons before we have the new moons, which energetically speaking, you know, however you want to put it, when you have a completion cycle before you have a new beginning, it's very much something needs to be let go of, something needs to be ended, something needs to be, you know, done with or completed and finalized and finished and put to bed and put down, right? So there's that. I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that I covered everything I wanted to cover about the full moon. And so with this though, with all the energy in the fixed signs are the ones that are carrying the burden at this time. So if you have any planets or points in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, these last 2 weeks is going to be, you know, last week and this week is very, very intense and it can be very transformational, but it requires an amount of surrender and detachment from holding on so tightly to what it is that is dead and gone and needs to go out of your life before it continues to rot and stink up the place. I mean, I'm just going to say that because fixed energy does have a tendency to hold on to things so much longer than what they should, so much like toxins, things like that in the body, even if you know, your cardinal points are fixed signs, but it's very much you have to let it go, you have to move on, you have to complete it and start something fresh, new and unique unto you. So there is that. On this day too, the sun will be coming into a conjunction with Jupiter, and so Jupiter is going to do nothing but amp up all of this energy. You know, the sun and Jupiter on its own, the conjunction itself is usually a positive one. It's not usually one where you're like, whoa, but with the square to Mars and Uranus and the fact that it's a full moon, this is going to very much be adding that expansive quality that Jupiter does to the energy at hand. So this full moon T-square could see people cutting away and final endings to move forward in a completely new way as individuals, as a society, as a planet, all the above. Also, on the 30th, Mercury will be stationing retrograde at 26 degrees. Mercury will be traveling all the way back to 11 degrees of Aquarius over the coming weeks and will conjunct both Jupiter and the Sun again on its backwards transit of the future-oriented sign. So there's a reevaluation of the future that we truly want to create. That's what I'm going to go with on this, and I'm going to stick to that statement because I like that statement. Just came out. I love it. So what is it that we truly need to reevaluate as an individual, and what is it that we need to reevaluate collectively as a group, as a community, as, you know, the larger whole of humanity? And where in our charts or our lives do we need to reevaluate, rethink, redo, re-edit our communications? Because for people that don't, you know, follow Mercury and what he does, or it does, because it's androgynous, Mercury in the air signs is about communication. So, and it will be retrograding through the air signs this year: Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. You know, but anyone for this particular retrograde, especially with everything else going on in the fixed signs, if you are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, this is going to impact you and your planets in a very big way. So really just stay safe out there and try to keep a logical eye. And you know, I mean, obviously emotions are emotions, right? So for Aries and for Aries rising, this full moon, I'm going to focus on the full moon. This full moon squaring Mars is happening from your 11th house to your 5th house. And the pressure point will be the 2nd house of your finances, of your money and material possessions, of your sense of self-worth. So there could be something that needs to, like being your money, in your 11th house, you know, being your money and materials with Mars there and Uranus. I mean, Uranus has been there, so it's been kind of shaking things up in terms of what it is that you value anyway. But with Mars there, Mars is definitely coming through to cut something out, to cut something away and whatnot. So the full moon in the 5th house, this is Leo's house. The sun is in your 11th house, up in your social networks and your social friends, of the gains that you make from your career. So this could be pressure from romance, love affair, children, friends, gains. Wow, gains, huh? To that 2nd house. So there's a pressure point that's happening, and there's a release valve that needs to be done. So what I would say is maybe, I mean, with Mars here, this could be cutting off a source of income for you. It's for some of you, cutting off a source of income. This could have, you know, something to do with your friends or children, finances, you know, across the board. The T-square is a tough thing to get through. It's one of, other than a full-blown, you know, cross in the sky of planets in square and opposition across, you know, 4 areas of your life, the T-square is no joke. It's a lot of pressure. It's like a pressure cooker, because, you know, the opposition is one thing, you can try to balance that, but when you have a square to a planet like Mars, it's very much that pressure cooking, explosive kind of energy where people will react. And because this is your chart ruler, Aries, this could see you reacting in a very negative way to something to do with your material, to your finances, maybe a blow to your income. So that is for Mars. For Mars. Mercury in my 7th house, going retrograde soon. Okay, so for Taurus and for Taurus rising, you know, this full moon squaring Mars, this is happening in your 10th and your 4th house, and the pressure is on you, right? So there is some type of karmic energy, because this is the ruler, Mars is the ruler of your 12th house. There's some type of pressure associated with ultimate endings, completions, cutting away of the past and moving forward in a completely new way, in terms of your home, your family, your roots, your property, and what it is that you're known for out in the world. So there is that kind of shake up energy, and very interesting, you know, left turns coming up for you for sure. You know, Uranus has been transiting through your 1st house for a while now, and you know, that's something that's ongoing, depending on where your ascendant, sun or moon is, depending on the degree, depends on whether or not you've gone through that shakeup yourself, or whether or not you just kind of feel the rumblings of it, of this need and want and desire to change. But with Mars here, this is definitely causing you to be more amped up yourself, and it could cause you to be a little bit more reactive here in your 1st house. And there, you know, there's pressure from the home, from the family, from the career, and the pressure's on you. And so there's a need to change something, a need to stop something or cut something away, especially because it's a full moon. So it's a completion point. It could be a very intense completion point as well. You know, maybe it's something that you've been laboring over for months and months, maybe even years, and it's finally done, and you just gone, you know. Or, you know, it could be that maybe something just needs to be cut out of your life, and it either has something to do with the home and family, um, you know, which is where this full moon is happening, or it has something to do with the career as well. So there's something that needs to be balanced between those two, but then there's also the added pressure of something going on with you specifically, where you yourself need to make changes in order to continue forward. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, the full moon square Mars is happening. The full moon is happening in your 9th and your 3rd house. And so the T square to Mars, the pressure point, is in the 12th house of endings. So for you, you know, having Mars in the 12th house, this, you know, there could be some friendships that need to come to an end because Mars does rule your 11th house of friends. Some very intense endings, perhaps, especially with, you know, this full moon between the 9th and the 3rd. And so there could be really intense communications associated around even money with your friendship groups and, you know, oof, yeah, Gemini, poor Gemini. I mean, this is a tense one. I mean, I hate transits to the 12th house. I hate T squares to the 12th house. I do. I've gone through them. I don't like them. Um, but it's definitely something that you know, there's endings that need to happen for obvious reasons, and it's been building for a while. So you've seen it coming, you've known it's coming. There could also, though, too, with this pressure to that 12th house, you know, there could be pressure to not just to end something, but to finalize something. Maybe something from the past needs to be put to bed. So, you know, there is that for Gemini rising as well. The push-pull part of it, though, would be in your 9th and your 3rd house. So with the sun being in your 9th house, there's this need and want and desire to move about as freely as you can, to do what you need to do, either to go back to school or to move houses even, or to move, take a trip, do things like that, go back to school. And with the 3rd house, that would be like your local community, like maybe you're locked into your local community. You know, but with the full moon happening in your 3rd house, this is an ending. Maybe something comes to an end and you're able to actually beat feet and go to a completely different country, and you're cutting ties with the country that you live in. I mean, this could also be a thing for a Gemini rising at this point too, where you completely move countries, because the 12th house is foreign countries to you, and not just foreign, like way far away from you at that time. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, the full moon is happening in your 8th and your 2nd house, and the pressure point would be on your 11th house, which is your friendships, your groups of people that you associate with by choice. This could also be social media as well. You know, and with Aquarius being your 8th house, and that's where the sun is transiting. I mean, this is your second house ruler in the 8th. This can be very much about your value or what it is that you find value in. And I don't know if you can hear the arguing happening in my house right now, but I've had to film this while the children are awake, and they're trying to clean bedrooms, but it sounds like there's arguments and disputes everywhere. So there's this theme in your chart, Cancer rising people, or sun or moon, depending on what you're looking at, of this full moon happening in your 2nd house. And this is a culmination point, a completion point, an ending point of something it is that you are doing out in the world to make money. But at the same time, with the ruler of your 10th being in your 11th, this is also this square point between the sun, the moon, and Mars. I mean, this is putting pressure on your friend groups, putting pressure on the money that you're making from that other, you know, because we have 3 material houses, and not all of us have just one job or something that we do. We have something that we're also known for, and that's that 10th house. And so the ruler of your 10th in your 11th, you know, this is what you're known for. Maybe on social media, maybe that has to change, or that has to go away, or something really needs to give, because the 8th house is a very intense house. This is where the sun is transiting. It's illuminating that 8th house theme of death, taxes, inheritances, you know, trauma, wounds, transformation. And then the moon, you know, coming into a full moon in that 2nd house, it's it's like the finalization of what it is that you truly value out in the world. I mean, this is also your chart ruler in the second house, and it's a full moon. So this is very much being a very emotional thing for you in terms of your value and what it is that you value, and maybe even the money that you make or the money that you earn from your own self in the world. But then there's also the sense that, as you know, as a Cancer rising and Leo being your second house, this is very much your value, like how you value yourself, Cancer. So, and there is that pressure going on in the 11th house of the people that you associate with by choice. So there could be arguments and disputes as well. And it's causing you to have to reevaluate what it is that you truly value, and letting go of, you know, any traumas, wounds, insecurities around who you are and what it is that you're known for. So that is for some Cancers. For Leo and Leo risings, this full moon is happening in your 7th and your 1st. So the sun is in your 7th house. So while the sun's been transiting here, you've been focused on relationships. You've been focusing, good Lord, Mercury. You've been focusing on the people that you either have contracts with, that are close personal friends of yours, that's your husband or your wife or your partner, you know, business partners, clients even. And this full moon, you know, in you is really illuminating how it is that you are showing up for the people that are in your life like this. But it's also a really hard T-square happening up into your 10th house with Mars. So Mars does rule your 4th house, and Mars does rule your 9th house. So for you, for Leos, Leo rising especially, and especially the early degrees, because this full moon is happening at 8 degrees or 9 degrees. What this is doing is, this is a really intense manifestation of your higher viewpoint of how you view the world, especially because the focal point is Mars, and Mars does rule your 9th house of what it is that you, how it is that you see the world around you, how it is that you see the people around you, right? Because this is you and your 7th house as well. You know, and this is also your 12th house ruler that is, you know, in the 1st. So this is very much you understanding at a much deeper unconscious level, you know, what it is that people are truly about, and you know, how you show up for other people and how other people show up for you as well. Now, that Mars also is a ruler of your 4th house, Leo. So, you know, Mars does rule Scorpio. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So as such, it does rule your 4th house. It's a co-rulership. And being in your 10th house, you know, maybe your stuff has been on view. Maybe your personal and behind the scenes stuff has been, you know, been put out in the spotlight somehow, some way, you know, it's been very prominent out in the world for you. And that in and of itself for a Leo ascendant person specifically can be a little intense, especially if their IC point or their 4th house cusp point is in Scorpio. So it's very much a pressure cooker also of, you know, of having to cut something away, cut something off, or walk away from a career of some kind, or walk away from an aspect of a career of some kind. So that is for Leo. For Virgo and for Virgo rising, the full moon squaring Mars is happening from your 6th house to your 12th house, and the 9th house is where your pressure point is. So the 9th house could be education, travel, perspective on the world around you and how you perceive the world around you. Your 6th house is your daily routines. And so what this is, you know, your daily routines. Virgo risings especially need a lot of variety and need freedom to do what they want to do when they want to do it on the daily basis. And so the sun has been traveling through here, highlighting that, but the sun rules your 12th house, Virgo. So with the moon here, you know, the moon does not rule your 5th house. What am I saying? Virgo rising, 6th house. No, your 11th house. So the moon rules your 11th house. Wow. Mercury retrograde. I am telling you right now, this is affecting me in a big way. And I don't like it because I don't like not being able to speak. So your 6th and your 12th house are being affected by this full moon. You know, the moon in your 12th house, this is a possible ending with a group of people or a completion of some kind to do with that social networks that you have. Like maybe you've been working on something behind the scenes because, you know, the moon does have that, it is going to be in the 12th house at this full moon. So maybe you've been working on something behind the scenes and now you're ready to release it. Maybe you're releasing, you know, you're finalizing and done with some type of teaching program that, and you're going to release it out to the world. And it's going to, you know, it's going to be very intense. It's going to be, you know, that intense square, and it's going to require action on your part. So what this is, I'm filming, please go. I'm in Virgo. We can talk about it in a minute, go, please. So with sorry about that, with with this full moon in your 12th house, this could be a culmination of something that you've been working on behind the scenes and you're ready to release it, and it's going to have very dramatic effects, especially since Mars does rule your 8th house of joint finances. So it could definitely, you know, as a teaching project, this could heighten that sense of income from you, for you, because the 8th house is, you know, resources made from other people. Goodness, everybody wants a piece of me today. So someone else that wants some attention right here, Mr. Kitty Cat. Sorry again. This energy is just insane. So like I said, this could be a teaching project that you've been working on or a course of some kind, and it's going to have a huge impact on, you know, not only your joint finances with someone else, right? Because that's what that 8th house is, but it could also be, you know, it's also rules your communication house because Mars does also rule Scorpio. So ruling your 3rd house, Mars in your 9th, it could be that you are thinking, speaking, communicating about something, and it's really, you're really fired up, you're really passionate about it. This is for some Virgo risings. For other Virgo risings, this could be a really intense ending to do with, I mean, just a really intense ending with the moon, especially in your 12th house of endings anyway. But it's something that possibly wouldn't be known because it is the 12th house. It's something maybe that you need to release from a past life. Maybe there's also, you know, you have to see some doctors for something. You know, there's, because the 9th and the 12th house do have associations with doctors and institutions. Oh my goodness. So for some Virgo risings, there is that as well. For Libra and for Libra rising, so the full moon happening, the full, Mercury retrograde. Oh, it strikes early. So what this is actually happening. The full moon is happening in your 11th house, but the sun is in your 5th house. The house that is receiving the most pressure, because this is where Mars is currently transiting with Uranus, is your 8th house. Okay. So what this tells me for Libra rising people is that you've been focusing on fun, play, joy, hobbies, children, you know, romance, like the sexy kind of boyfriend, girlfriend, love affair romance. And there's something that's going on. There's a culmination, excuse me, or a completion happening in terms of, you know, that fun romance kind of energy, and your groups of people that you associate with, your friends. And this is happening in the 8th house. For some of you, this could be because Mars does rule your 7th house of relationship. I mean, some of you could be getting married on the fly. I mean, I'm not even joking about that. I've seen this. I have seen this happen. So with a full moon, with that T square, it could be very intense and it could need to happen very quickly because Mars is very fast energy. Full moons are completions. So you could possibly see some Libra rising people getting married just like that and not telling anyone and just being like, hey, guess what? I'm married. This could be engagement as well. But this could also see, you know, endings, completions with clients and possibly, you know, cutting away of a source of income for some Libra rising people, or maybe for some Libra rising people, their spouse loses an income. So there is that as well. For others, it would be a culmination completion. Maybe their spouse gets the job that they, you know, because the 5th and the 11th house are two lucky houses. With a full moon here, this is possibly something that's been being worked on for a while. And so this could be a celebration to some type of promotion to the spouse. But it's definitely other people's money. You know, malefic planet, malefic house, they kind of cancel each other out. I'm not saying it's not going to be intense. There's probably going to be a lot of intensity, but it could possibly turn out more positive for you, especially because the full moon is in trine and sextile with your ascendant and descendant. For Scorpios and for Scorpio risings, yep, didn't do that one right. Dang. So yeah, we're gonna do this because it's really gonna bother me. Okay. Mars, full moon squaring Mars, which is a co-ruler for you, Scorpio. So this full moon is happening in your 4th and in your 10th. So what this says is that, you know, this full moon in your 10th house, your focus has been on your home, your family, your roots, your property, probably something to do with your property. And so, you know, there's been issues there, especially with Jupiter and Saturn. But now the focus is on coming back into balance and balancing out, or a culmination point to do with your career. So now what's happening is that this is a finalizing of something that you're working on in your career, but the pressure point would be to one of your chart rulers in your 7th house of relationship, clients, you know, contractual obligations, business partners, marriage partners, spouse, husband, wife kind of thing. So there could definitely be a very intense culmination happening for you in that career sector. And it's going to require action, possibly on your part, because you know, Mars does rule you. But also, you know, Mars also rules your 6th house of your daily routines as well. And in your 7th house, you know, your daily routines could have a focus around your significant other, around your partnerships, around, you know, your husband, wife, spouse, or clients or business partners. And so there's like added pressure going on with this full moon, and it's going to, you know, it could possibly, someone could come into your life or someone could be cut out of your life, right? In terms of partnership or business partnerships or things like that, as a Scorpio rising. For others of you, this could possibly be a culmination or completion in the, you know, an ending to a career, for you to be able to focus on you for one, because, you know, I mean, Mars does rule you, but also the opposite end of all of this is you. To focus on you, to focus on your partners, you know, to focus on the needs and wants of the other. So that's definitely a thing for Scorpio rising people. For Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, so the full moon squaring Mars is happening in your 3rd and your 9th, and your 6th house is the one that's receiving the most pressure. So if you are Sag rising and you have any planets or points in your 6th house, they are going to be feeling this. So this full moon is happening, I believe, at 8 degrees. Don't quote me on that, because obviously my brain is not functioning on all levels right now. But the fact of the matter is that Mars is in your 6th house. Uranus is in your 6th house. You know, Uranus has been there shaking things up. Now Mars has been transiting through, firing things up, possibly causing inflammation, arguments, disputes, things like that. Maybe your conversations on the daily basis have been very intense, and very heated, I would say. But the full moon happening in your 3rd and your 9th house, like, this is a culmination and a completion. You know, the sun is in your 3rd house, so you've been very focused on communicating, on you know, on communicating in, you know, with the people in your environment, on that type of communication. But with this full moon happening, this could be a culmination point, this could be a completion of a project or something like that, possibly even like the completion of writing a book, you know, that type of thing. But it's not going to be easy, and it's, you know, that the 9th house does have the connotation to writing books, so that's why I say that. And the 3rd house is also, you know, communication as well. So with this full moon, it could be a very intense culmination point for some people, with their daily routines, and with, you know, thinking, speaking, communicating, even observing the world around them, and possibly shifting something in their higher world view, about what it is that, you know, God, the universe, the world around you, about what it is that is real for you on that mundane level as well. The thing is that also Mars does rule your 5th house. So there's a lot of pressure happening on the ruler of your 5th house. So this could also be felt with love affairs, children, hobbies, things that you love to do. Your creative self could be up for, you know, it could be that maybe there's an evaluation that's happening of your creative self and how it affects your daily routines, or even lovers, that how they affect your daily routines. So there is that. With the moon in the 9th house, the moon does rule your 8th house. So there is definitely a culmination and completion of possibly understanding what it is that has happened, that has been very traumatic for you, because the 8th house does have that association with trauma, intensity, you know, death, inheritance, taxes, transformation. So there's definitely some stuff going on here that's going to overhaul what it is that you're communicating about as well going forward, for Sag rising people. Ooh, and we skipped over Capricorn. So for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising, sorry, Cappies, this full moon squaring Mars is happening in your 2nd house and in your 8th house. So the full moon is actually happening in your 2nd house. So, or no, sorry, I got that backwards. So, ow, this Mercury retrograde, man, is really affecting me. So the sun is in your 2nd house. The moon is in your 8th house. So this is a culmination and a completion happening, an end, and I mean, 8th house has association with endings as well, of something to do, you know, I mean, your 2nd and your 8th, this is your money and other people's money. This is also your money, death, inheritance, taxes, and also how it affects you yourself and your sense of value, your sense of worth as well. And so the focal point would be Mars in the 5th house of your children. You know, maybe something is happening in the life of your child and it's really got you amped up, right? Like, I think I've been saying that. I feel like I've been saying that for a while now. Like, there's something happening with Capricorn rising, especially with their children and your personal money. So, you know, maybe there's some loans that are due for your child, or there's some, you know, some money issues that are going on with one of your children, and you're going to have to shell out more money for them. Or there could be, you know, some, you know, it's 5th house. It also rules your 4th house. Maybe, for, you know, for some Capricorn risings, this could be you moving in with a child as well, one of your grown children. If you're a older retired Capricorn, you know, you could be moving in with one of your kids even. Or, you know, if you have kids that are of age, perhaps they're moving out and they're buying their own home. And you're going to offer assistance or financial support for them. So there is that type of energy going on there as well, because, you know, the ruler of your 8th is in your 2nd, so it's your money and other people's money as well. So that's for some Capricorn rising people. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this full moon squaring Mars is happening. The full moon is happening in your 1st and in your 7th house. So the sun is in your sign. Your relationship ruler, or the planet that rules your 7th house, is in your your sign, you. So the spotlight is on you. And this full moon in the 7th house is happening, you know, this is an ending, a completion, a culmination of something to do in partnership. Whether or not this is the ending of a project or the cutting away of a partnership, it's going to have something to do with that 4th house, because the 4th house is what is receiving the most pressure right now, with Mars there, with, you know, with Uranus there, which is your chart ruler. So your chart ruler has been transiting your 4th house, and you've been really focused on your home, your family, your roots, your property, you know, what it is that you come home to, or your home itself, and that feeling of home. And, you know, with this full moon happening in your 7th house, this is maybe you are finalizing the purchase on a home. I mean, especially with Mars there, you know, because Mars does rule, or yeah, maybe you could be buying a new vehicle as well, because Mars does rule your 3rd house for Aquarius rising people, and the 3rd house has that connotation of vehicles as well. But also Mars rules your 10th house. So what it is that you're, you know, it's a co-ruler. So what it is that you're known for out in the world, what it is that you do, how it is that you gain attention through that 10th house, and how people know who you are and what you're known for, is there, but it's in your 4th house. So this could see you, I mean, this could see you inviting people, you know, into your home virtually as well. Especially because Uranus is there, and Uranus has that association with the internet. And maybe doing some online courses, or, you know, something of that nature, some type of teaching as well, because 3rd house also has to do with teaching, writing, speaking, communicating, things like that, with that 3rd house as well. So for you, this could be something that maybe you've been working on, or maybe something needs to change on the home front, to be able to better serve your relationships as well, for Aquarius rising people. For Pisces, right? Yeah, Aquarius, Pisces. Okay. With the way this day has been going through all of these signs, Pisces, thank you for waiting until the end. You are the most patient sign in the zodiac. I have had very many hiccups throughout this video, so thank you for being patient and waiting. Or, you know, finding your symbol in the Pisces name and coming right to it. That's fine too. You don't need to go back and look at all my blunders. So for Pisces and for Pisces rising, this full moon in square with Mars, the full moon itself is happening in your 12th house and in your 6th house. The pressure is going to be on your 3rd house of communication, and that's where Mars is. So for Pisces rising people, sun or moon even, because you're still going to get that flavor with it no matter what. You know, this full moon, you know, the sun is in your 12th house. It's lighting up, you know, past, it's lighting up your dream sector. Excuse me, it's lighting up, you know, what it's lighting up the area where you go away from the world and you are in solitude and seclusion. You're by yourself. This is ashrams, yoga retreats. This is, you know, brothels. This is hospitals, rehabilitation centers, things like that, that you're away from the world and you're by yourself. This could even be you having a cabin way out in the middle of nowhere, and that's where you decide to go, which I'm on board, by the way. So with the full moon though, the moon is in your 6th house of your daily routines, of, you know, what it is that you need on a daily basis to take care of yourself. This is also the busyness of your life and, you know, what it is that you're doing on a daily basis. This is your health routines, your work routines, your workout routines. It's health and wellness, and also that association with mental wellness as well. But with this full moon happening, it's culmination, completion, something that you are doing that is coming to an end, or some type of completion in terms of what it is that you are doing of service to other people is coming to an end. And that focal point is on Mars in your 3rd house, you know, of communication. So there could be really intense, really explosive, possibly, or really passionate communications happening around this full moon. As such, with Mars being the ruler of your 2nd house, this communication could have to do with money specifically. You know, money coming to an end from your job that is completing, because the sun is in Aquarius and the sun rules your 6th house, which is where the moon is. Now the moon coming to completion, right? The full moon is an ending, but the moon also rules your 5th house of joy, play, fun, creativity. So there could be a culmination point happening of something that you love to do just because you love to do it, a finalization of that project and what you've been working on a daily basis. Or it could be an ending, like you are cutting something out, you're cutting something off, you're ending something, and you're going to speak to it this week as well, or over the course of the next coming 2 weeks. So that is my forecast for all 12 signs. So I really hope that you enjoy this. Like, share, subscribe. This will be cross-posted on Facebook at the Lilith Society, as well as on my YouTube channel, Moon Apogee Astrology. So have a great week and stay safe.